us is completely counter.
Bracket. All right, my friends. So we have a fun one today. We have Doug Schauf from Cape Elizabeth, Maine, and Remax or what?
Remax Oceanside. Yeah.
Ocean. Okay, gotcha. And Doug is a real tour up in Maine. And he has a couple great videos that I found just because I'm from Maine, and so I found one that really took off for Doug, and I thought it was pretty cool. So if I also like the music intro that Doug had on there, and I said, what was that music? And Doug's like, oh yeah, it's a band he kind of does with his friends and stuff. And I said, oh, that's pretty cool. So, a hard rocking guy, and any kind of, you're talking to a hard rocker is always fun. But how he talks about his love of Maine and also good music too. I thought it'd be pretty cool to reach out, just see what's going on in the real estate market. Because the last time I talked to anyone in Maine, Doug, it wasn't you, but it was a couple other guys, and I'm just talking. I forgot the names. I'll talk. Nice guys. I forgot. But anyway, that was before the coronavirus. Now we fast forward 8 months, and it's a whole different world, and it's nuts. So, Doug, introduce yourself. Tell us about who you are, your whole thing, and we'll just go from there.
Hey, thanks, Joe, and thanks for having me on this. This will be a lot of fun. Anytime somebody likes some rock and roll, I'm excited to chat. So, yeah, no, man. Again, I appreciate it. I'm a realtor here in the state of Maine. I'm focused in the Portland area. If anybody knows about Maine, it's Portland's the big city here in Maine. So that's where my focus is. And I started my YouTube channel, Make Maine Your Home. Probably a couple of years ago, but it started to put some effort into it about the last year or so. And that's where you and I met. And it was, like I said, it's all, anytime somebody mentions the rock and roll and the songs and stuff like that, it's like, it's more exciting, So, but yeah, no, I've been here in Maine, 25 years.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
Yeah. And speaking of the rock and roll, quick story is when I moved to Maine 25 years ago, I moved with a band. I packed up. I'm from Buffalo, New York. I packed up all our stuff. About 6 of us moved to Maine, and I don't know why we thought we were going to come to Maine and make it big. Obviously that didn't happen. So,
So you guys are playing in Buffalo, and you said,
"Yeah,
let's move to Maine."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did have roots here. My father lived up in Bangor, Orono area, and my brother went to college up there. So we drove up and played some shows at the college, and and fell in love with Maine. So it's not as crazy as it sounds, although kind of, But yeah, and the music that you hear on my YouTube channel is actually a lot of those guys that I moved up with. Fast forward 25 years, we looked back on our times back then and said, hey, we should record some of that music. So that's what we did. We went and recorded some of it. And
that's the band's name again was, say the band's name and the YouTube channel on that.
Yeah, right now we're calling it Crisis at the Wax Museum. And it's because when we moved to Maine 25 years ago, the name of the band was Black Wax.
Okay.
And the apartment that we lived in, we used to call it the Wax Museum. So, it was,
Gotcha. Hold on just a second. Like I said, my dog is not too. He doesn't like Crisis out of the Black Wax. I guess he likes Crisis. Yeah. And Pablo, you are just. Hold on a second, Doug.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, it's calling. Thank you. I appreciate that. This is the epitome of professionalism right there, Doug. You don't get much more professional than this guy here.
It's business in 2020, man. That's what it's all about, right?
I don't know if you saw my daughter, but she had her Boston Bruins shirt on because we love the Bees.
Nice. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Not a Sabres fan, huh?
I was growing up, of course, because I lived in Buffalo, and I was a big Bills fan growing up in Buffalo. Once you get up into New England, though, if you know anything about New England sports, I mean, we've been spoiled, of course. And
it's just nuts.
Yeah, it's hard not to gravitate to that. But I still enjoy watching the Bills play and all that stuff. But,
And of course, the Sabres ever win a cup, you'll go crazy, I think.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Some people, it did happen. Yeah. Some people call me a fair-weathered fan, but it is what it is.
Yeah, all right on. So I'm just curious. So you guys, were you married back then?
No. This was straight up rock and roll. The old saying, sex, drugs, rock and roll. That's where we were at.
And you and six. So like, were the other guys married, or just some guy said, you know,
No.
you had some connections with your dad and stuff, but other than that, you just said you played some at UMO, you played some gigs. You're like, this is cool. Let's just move up there. And
Yeah. That's basically what happened. We were all, you know, let's see. Yeah, I was 21 when I moved up. So we were all just like, you know, no strings attached.
Yeah.
Let's just go. You know, we threw stuff in a van and drove up.
That's
You know?
nuts, man. All right. So then, you know, you started, and by the way, just, you know, a side note, the music is heavy, and I love it. You know what I'm saying? I love that kind of, that's why I said to Doug, I said, man, that was what appealed to me more than anything. Not that your video wasn't good, but I said, who is that? He goes, that's my band. I said, huh? I said, oh, man, an old man like me with that kind of music like? I said, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now that kind of, when you guys were doing that, was in the early 90s, mid 90s or something?
Early 90s. Yeah. So it was, like 94 is when we actually moved up. So that was kind of like the start of that, you know, talking about music, like that grunge era,
Yes,
you know what I mean?
yes.
The Seattle explosion and all that stuff.
Heavier, because in the 80s, that, you know, the later 80s were not that kind of hard, you know, that hard, you know, kind of tune there. So I was like, so it's pretty good. Did you guys, I mean, what were you doing for work? Like working at McDonald's or something like that? Or, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I was fortunate, you know, my father up in Bangor, I used to drive up there and do like construction and remodeling and projects and stuff like that with him.
Gotcha.
But, you know, the rest of the guys, I mean, temp jobs.
Yeah, just
you
trying
know.
to put food on the table.
I mean, geez, you know, looking back at it though, we had like a 5-bedroom apartment. I think it was like $500 a month, you know, and there was like 6 of us piled in it. So I think my monthly nut was like $80 or something.
Totally.
Like that.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It does. When you and 3 guys live together, as cheap as can be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, those were the days. I mean, now you can't even go out for a drink for $80 anymore, you know?
Oh, did you guys, now, you know, so you all kind of went on your separate ways to some degree. You obviously stay together, but you found your better half, they found their better half and stuff like that. What happened? I mean, how did you guys, like, what happened? How did you find yourself down here doing what you're doing now? Did you say, look, guys, I got to get a real career or something like that? Or what'd you end up doing?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, you know, when you take 6 guys out of their parents' house and put them in one apartment, it only lasted about 3 months, and like the band broke up, and you know, some guys moved back to Buffalo, but you know, a handful of us stayed here in Maine. Over the years, there's only 2 of us left that live here in Maine, but I'm still close friends with them, and you know, so being in the, you know, construction and remodeling world that I was in, you know, I just kind of kept going. I realized that I didn't want to do the physical labor anymore. So I transitioned more into like sales and marketing. This was a long time ago. And then, you know, about 10 years ago when the economy was shaky, you know, the housing bubble burst, you know, that's when I decided like, hey, you know, construction it was like a faucet, like getting turned off, you know? And you know, me and my family, we were okay. We survived, and you know, that's when I said, "Hey, I want to get my real estate license and you know, off and running." So, how
did you? I mean, if you don't, I don't want to be. I'm just curious. How did you meet your wife at a show, or how'd you meet?
Yeah, you know, I sort of. No, I've known my wife for a long time. We met here in Maine, but geez, I think we must have met in like 95, 96, you know, it wasn't all that long after, you know, I just met her being out, you know, out on the town and stuff like that. And, you know, we dated for a few years.
She's a native Mainer.
No, actually she's from Connecticut. So we kind of both like came to Maine to get at the same or similar time, just, you know, but met here. And, you know, we dated for a long time, and then, you know, offs and ons, you know what I mean? That type of thing. And, you know, we've been married now, I think about 13 years. So, yeah. So like 15 years ago, I started to smack myself in the face and said, you know, I mean, I obviously love her and I want to spend my life with her. So why don't we get rolling here? You know,
are you older or is she older?
We're about the same age, actually.
Gotcha. Because I'm like you, but my wife is 4 years younger because, you know, men are generally less mature than women, if that makes sense. So it took me a while to mature to get to the level of my wife.
Exactly.
I'm not there yet relative to maturity. Just
don't get me wrong. She's much more mature than I am. Absolutely. We just happen to be the same age.
The way it is, man, I tell you. You know, all right. So cool. And you have kids.
Yeah, we got 3 kids. Awesome kids.
Right on,
that's a ride in itself, but raising 3 kids is a lot of fun. You know, it's great.
the real estate market. So you got some chops in the actual real estate market now, but you also been as in the sales part of it in terms of moving houses and stuff like that for, you said, about 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So the first couple of years you were just eating ramen noodles, I imagine, right? I mean, how'd that go the first couple of years?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, because it's we had savings and stuff, to get us through. So we were able to kind of weather that storm. But real estate it's kind of like any sales and marketing career. It takes a few months to get going, but because I was like a little bit later in life, so to speak, getting started, I think it was easier for a guy like me to get it rolling pretty quick.
Yeah.
So within a year, I was doing pretty well.
Okay.
And of course, the market has continued to go up ever since then.
And you live in Cape?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, gotcha. And again, I presume your kids will go to Cape Woods High School and all that?
They sure will. Yeah, absolutely.
And they got a football team now at Cape High, right?
We do. Yeah.
So I told you I went to Cape High for one semester as a freshman in 1984. 84?
Yeah.
At my second semester, and we didn't have a football team back then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Definitely have a football team. I've been to a few of their games. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy, man. That's nuts. And I think there's a video or some kind of thing, Cape playing like Marshwood, some kind of a documentary on some channel. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, nice.
Dude, it's cool. It's actually on the football. I was like, what? I remember because my brother went to Chevrolet, and I don't even know if they have Chevrolet out there anymore. But I remember I said, Ben, they got this documentary on Cape high school football. He goes, what? They got a football team? It's crazy. It's Cape playing Marshwood or something like that. I can't remember. But that's cool, man. All right.
Yeah, nice.
Gotcha. All right, so cool. So now you guys, you're in real estate. You're in the whole Portland area, which is, that's the predominant where most, Portland's the big city and everything.
Yeah.
Cape is a suburb to the south, a more affluent suburb. What's happened in real estate so tell us a little bit just from the beginning of the year to now with the COVID, all that crap. And I know I don't want to get political here, but everyone has a different take on the governor, not just your governor, I have Governor Kemp. You have Governor Mills, I think, and everyone's got, I don't even care. I'm just saying at the end of the day, there's different takes on how this has been dealt with. But all I really care about in this video is just what is happening, what you've seen from the initial insanity to where we are today. I mean, has it just been insane? Anything like you've seen ever in your life?
No, I think, just like everybody, we're in uncharted waters. It's been an interesting time for sure. From a real estate perspective, which is obviously my forte, in the beginning of the year, we were battling with inventory levels, just like there's just not a lot of houses on the market. And we've been battling with that for a couple of years now. It's really kind of like a housing shortage. It's amazing. For some reason.
I'm sorry, but why? What is happening? Is it because there are limitations on development? What is going on where we have this? Because I hear that everywhere. I'm sitting there thinking, if everyone keeps saying this, inherently there's something that's not moving the inventory to get produced to meet the demand. Why? I mean, what's happening? Any thoughts on that? Yeah,
it's interesting. I've heard a few thoughts on that from the quote unquote experts, but honestly, it's kind of funny. I don't know if anybody knows 100% why. My take is, well, first off, there are stats that people stay in their house longer now. There was a period of time where it's like, people would buy a house and then 4 or 5 years later, they're moving somewhere else. Yeah. I think those numbers have increased to like 8 or 9 years, so I think people are just kind of staying put more, and also like the baby boomers, who grew up in raised their family in a house. A lot of them are just staying there versus like downsizing and things like that. You know what I mean? Like instead of moving out, they're just making arrangements to stay in their house, forever, which is all well and good. It just, from this conversation, it does hurt inventory levels. And then, regulations on developments and things like that, do hurt, as people put more regulations on what you can do and with developments and things like that, it does slow that down, because obviously because I'm in the business, I'd love it. Every piece of land, just throw a house on it. I understand we can't do that. And we do need to have some regulations. I personally would like to see them be a little more practical in areas. If we need housing for people, we need housing for people,
man, I was talking to a guy in California the other day, and I'm like, look, man, you guys got a freaking, they're making, solar photovoltaic panels and all this. All that does is increase the cost of housing, which prices people out of the market. And we already have a housing shortage for middle, lower class people, income people to get a house. And now you're just adding. I mean, that just, it can't help to increase housing for people who are having a hard time affording it to begin with. But,
right, exactly. Yeah, and unfortunately, those are the people that get hurt the most. The lower income or the middle class people, because they get pushed out of the areas that are more attractive, and then they can't afford it. So yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out over the next 5-10 years. As we go through this, because right now there's really not much end in sight as far as inventory levels. They're
That's interesting. No, keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because what happened with COVID, like you asked me, with what happened when the lockdown happened, what happened was inventory levels got even worse because, of course, everybody's like, well, I'm not selling my house now. I'm not letting anybody come in here, So when you look at it like that, it becomes a supply and demand issue. There's no inventory out there, but there's a lot of demand, and the reason there's demand is because the interest rates came down. And I mean, I even refinanced my house right in the middle of the lockdown because I'm like, geez, if I'm going to get a rate of 3%, I'm doing this, right. So you know what I mean? The demand is still super high because of the interest rates, but there's just nothing to sell. And that's what's creating this, if you heard the stories about, oh, geez, I sold my house and got 50,000 more than I was asking. I mean, that's why.
Is that true? I mean, is that really happening? Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, up here in Maine, in the Portland area, I think the average ticket, don't quote me on this, is like the average house is like 350, 400,000, roughly right around there.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen houses go for 20, 30, 40, even 50, 60,000 over asking, just
and
because.
They're approved for mortgages? I mean, how does it become appraised? How does it get appraised for that much? You know what I'm saying?
Appraisal, whenever this happens with pricing, that's always the biggest concern is it going to appraise?
Right.
I haven't seen a whole lot of appraisal problems, really. Some, but not a lot. And I think it's because some of these houses are getting 15, 20 offers, people bidding on it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
But if they're getting 15 to 20 offers, that's the friggin' market, man.
And I think that's what, because these appraisers they're human, so they're looking at it going, well, geez, if they got 15 offers, we know it's worth it. Now let's prove it, and then they're able to kind of put it all together. So we haven't seen a ton of appraisal problems, but there are some. So
right.
Yeah.
Is the what's a typical day on market now? Like, I don't know. I have no idea. What would it be in terms of?
Yeah, I mean, that depends on location. Actually, if you want to see some exact numbers, if you go to my channel, Make Maine Your Home, some of the housing reports that I do talks about that exactly. But there's some towns here, like Westbrook, for example, here in, it's a town on the other side of Portland. That's more, it's like a middle class town. So they have very low days on market. I think they're like running at less than 2 weeks in some areas, and to give you like a normal market should be 3 to 6 months of inventory. And we're seeing like less than a month worth of inventory in most areas.
Are you getting a lot? I mean, this might be speculation, but are you getting people like moving from, Boston to get out of the cities and moving from, I don't know. I mean, are they coming up to Portland and Cape and Scarborough and stuff to say, are you seeing that, or is that just kind of a rumor mill or something?
No, we are definitely seeing that. Yeah, I mean, it might not be like the floodgates, like the media or whatever makes it out to be, but we are. I mean, I've gotten, especially like California, for example, with the wildfires out there. Yeah. I've talked to like 3 people over the last like month that call and just say, geez, I got to get away from not only COVID, but these wildfires are amazing, So I think, Maine's attractive to people like that want to get out of the city.
Yeah.
Our numbers are low, in COVID. And I mean, we still take a lot of precautions, and that could be a whole separate conversation, but our numbers are low. We only have about 1.2 million people in the whole state. So, we're spread out a little bit. There's a lot of places that people can go and get some privacy and just, live life.
No, that's one that appeals to Maine for sure. Is that well, you still got the amenities of Portland, but you don't have to be that far away removed to feel like you're, out in the freaking, you know what I'm saying, the sticks for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You could be a 30-minute ride to Portland and be out, in a rural area, which, 30 minutes to somebody who lives in LA is like, that's not a long time to be in your car.
So I live in Atlanta. I mean, hell, 30 minutes is just to get to school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
What with the people that are coming up and stuff? Are they just? Let me ask you a question. Are you finding that people are looking for more up the rural areas? They just think anything in Maine is rural. You know what I'm saying? Like even Westbrook is kind of rural compared to like California stuff. Or are they looking? I want to get the hell out of Dodge, be way out in Aroostook County or anything like that. I'm just.
No, I don't really cater a lot to the northern Maine, so I don't get a ton of calls about that, but a few, because people will find me on YouTube and start asking questions and stuff, and I'm happy to help out anybody. But no, I mean, I get a lot of people that look at like the lake region. They're like, hey, if I'm going to move to Maine, I want to be, on the lake.
Yeah.
Portland, we still get a lot of calls because even though Portland's a city, I mean, there's only like 75,000, is the population. So it's not huge, and people feel comfortable about that. People tend to gravitate more towards Portland and the heavier markets because of technology too. Like if people are working from home,
that was my next question. Exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah. If everybody's working out of their house, they want to be in an area, that has the good, the bandwidth that can handle that type of thing.
So I know Maine just passed a referendum about, opening the bandwidth to rural areas, and who knows wherever that will go. I was all for that. But what do you think about bandwidth in some of these out, I mean, you got Portland proper, then just some of the smaller towns out and about, is a bandwidth a problem, even though it's like, I hate to say inner suburbs, but I'm saying not, even right. Cape, or you have bandwidth there, or what?
Cape's good. I mean, most of southern Maine is pretty good. like Brunswick area, south.
Brunswick, exactly.
But if you get into the rural areas, I do always recommend, especially buyers that don't know the area, is check with before you buy a place if that's your objective. Check with the the companies, the cable companies and the data companies to make sure that they service those areas, because there's still, as you get outside of the cities, there are pockets where it just doesn't go, so you do want to be, mindful of that and watch out for it. But most areas in southern Maine are great. Northern Maine is kind of where they're spending most of their time to figure out how to get it everywhere.
Well, I interviewed a guy from Keene, New Hampshire last month, and he said Keene was fine, but he said there are some places literally one town over where it's not. And so if you were moving to the whatever Keene, New Hampshire suburbs are, whatever, and you thought, hey, I'll just work from home. Nah, it ain't gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Because the bandwidth isn't there. But I guess Keene's a college town or something like that. Is the and that's interesting. In Maine, I tell you the interesting thing with Maine, which is I didn't know this, but I did a video on it just a few weeks ago. Maine is one of only 4 states that actually has a net population decline. And so Maine, West Virginia, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So the 3 northern New England states, and then West Virginia. With Pennsylvania's coming up there too, which is weird, but they're not yet. But anyway,
interesting.
I'm sitting there thinking, so the population in Maine is old. It's literally dying off, and I don't mean to say that negatively or be flippant, but it's just a fact. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting there thinking, doesn't that mean that there could be opportunity that more? I don't know how do you wrap your head around that big demographic shift? With some of these states, with the facts that there's not enough inventory as it is. I don't know, and I'm not even, you don't have to answer. I just wonder, it's just odd. They're having less people from a net migration coming in than are dying off. And I wonder how that would stake out for the future for Maine. Any thoughts on that as an older population dying off? I mean, what do you think?
It's interesting. That's why I say it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next 5-10 years, and depending on how long, the COVID sticks around and all that kind of stuff. Because I think as population dies off, I mean, younger people do tend to maybe go to college here but then take off for a little bit. A lot of them end up coming back later in life because they realize like, hey, Maine's pretty cool, so they come back. But then also we do also have a big like summer population, I mean, southern Maine goes through the roof, but they're not necessarily, permanent residents here, so they're not really counted, like Portland probably goes, I don't know the exact numbers, you could probably find it, but probably goes from 75,000 up to like 150 in the
Oh,
summer.
absolutely.
You know, just
Hell, I
because.
was raised on Peaks Island, Doug. In Peaks Island in the wintertime, we had like 400. In the summertime, we had like 3,000. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So same thing. So I think, it's going to be interesting to see how it all goes.
Yeah.
Plus, the declining population, I'd almost like to see the numbers based on areas because, Maine is so huge,
Yeah. Yeah.
that if you cut it in half
Yep.
and look at like what's happening in southern Maine
Yes,
versus
I think
northern
you're right.
Maine,
Absolutely.
because sometimes the numbers kind of bring the whole state down a little bit depending on what's happening up northern Maine.
No, I think it's spot on. I would bet, I haven't researched it, but I would bet that is attributed mostly to the northern Maine. I bet. On the now Maine just opened Portland. They just did some big tech thing, or what did they just open? Like they're at the university, I think Southern Maine. They got some kind of partnership with somebody. It looked pretty cool. You know what I'm talking about? Like.
No, I haven't heard too much there. I know the university here is great. I know they've been doing a lot.
Like some kind of medical thing they got, and some rich guy donated all this money. I was like, man, that's gonna. I off the top of my head, I can't remember. I said,
it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Well, and I know the hospital here too, Maine Medical Center is a big one, and they're connected, I believe, with Mass General too. So it's kind of like, that actually drives in a lot of residents and stuff like that kind of have people stick around once they kind of go through those motions and some good professional careers.
So are you seeing of your people who are contacting you, are they mostly intrastate, moving from Maine to Maine, within Maine, moving from the New England to Maine, or just, I know you said a couple California, if you had where are people coming from for Maine? And any thoughts on that? Or
we get a ton of calls from Massachusetts. Yeah. That's a big one. New York is probably runners up if I were to gauge the amount of calls I get. And I think that kind of makes sense because if you're in those populated areas saying, hey, I want to get out of these populated areas, and then you look up a map and go, oh, Maine's right there. It's an easier move and stuff.
No, I've already summered up there anyway, so they're familiar with Maine anyhow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people have, geez, I used to go there when I was a kid,
exactly.
And then off they go. So yeah, I mean, we get a lot of that. I'm working with a few people from down south, like the Carolinas, yes. And then California, I think is just because of the what's happening out there.
Yeah. When you get a house to list, what are people? Are they moving to nursing homes? Are they moving down south? What are the listings that you have? What's the story behind that, generally speaking?
You mean when people are like moving out of the state or whatever?
Well, no, they're saying, hey, Doug, I want you to sell my house because I'm getting ready to do something. I mean, what would be that? Why were they listing their houses, generally speaking?
Yeah, we get. I mean, here. A lot of the sales are happening from people that are maybe like upgrading, they have a family and they're moving out of their starter home, so they got to sell that and, buy something. We are starting to see though, like I mentioned, the baby boomers too, like as they get older, they have to figure something out.
Right.
Like I'm working with a couple clients right now where, one of them is, we're selling her house and her son's building an addition on his house.
I got
it. So she can move in and kind of cohabitate. And then, sell.
That's the one on Ocean Ave. I saw a video you did on Ocean Ave in Cape Elizabeth.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered about that. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, a lot of that going on, just kind of, families joining together. And then of course you got to sell one of them, those types of things.
So it's happening more actually. I wonder about that. Like that, that used to be the way it used to be. We have, 3 families in one, and then it just kind of went away. And I'm wondering if we're going to start seeing that kind of coming back because
I think we are going to see that coming back. I get a lot of calls, even another client that I'm working with moving up here from south, and they're bringing their whole family with them. They're like, you know what, I'm going to have my mom and my dad with me. I'm going to have my grandparents with me so I want an in-law. I want like a family compound type thing, So I think we are going to start seeing more of that.
You having a hard time finding a place for them?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
Now, with your experience, having done construction for a long time, though, you can probably identify things that a potential buyer should be wary of that maybe someone who never actually worked with their hands can figure. You see what I'm saying? So that's got to be a leg up for you, right?
That's it. Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. That's been a huge benefit for me, being in real estate is, being able to talk to people intelligently about like what a house needs and what it doesn't need. And, probably probably the best thing I can offer on that is like, and also kind of helping out with like what things cost, you know, like
Yes.
you know, like if somebody's like, oh, the house needs a roof, and it's like, everybody's like, oh my God, that's going to cost, you know, $30,000. Well, you know, probably not, you know, and I can kind of help, you know, talk people through it. Cause if it's the house of their dreams, I'd hate to have them walk away from it thinking something's going to be this outrageous expense when maybe it's not so bad.
You know, like when people are,
around.
like, you know, listing houses or buying a house with you that they need a new roof, or you feel, you know, you got a network of roofers that say, hey, I know Joe Schmo down the street, he's pretty good and reliable, he charges a fair rate and all that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just from being in the business for so long, and then also real estate. I mean, I got connections for just about everything. Yeah.
How, I'm just curious. Like, I mean, how many? Is there a? If you're a roofer, I would think you got to be in pretty big demand up in Maine. Or if you're, you know what I'm saying, these laborious jobs that we used to kind of look down on back in the day, like, roofer, you know what I'm saying? I'm literally, I don't mean that negatively, but just, right. I don't want to be a roofer, but it's a freaking tough job, man. And I got a feeling there's not enough roofers for the demand out there, I got to think, right?
There is, I mean, just about every contractor I know right now is so busy. They're booking months out, you know, and it's like you said, you know, maybe some of these, you know, professions that we may have looked on before, like, why would I want to do that? Yeah. I'm telling you, man, if you're a young person out there thinking about what to do for your life, these guys are killing it. They're making tons of money, you know, and they're booking out months and months in advance, you know.
I cannot, man, I tell you, man, when I grew up, it was like, you're not going to you're going to go to college and blah, blah, blah. You know, I was such a bad student. I had to go in the Army to get my college money. Right. But, you know, my mom, you know, she, you know, God bless her. She goes, go to Maine Maritime Academy because you can be a big engineer on a boat. I said, that sounds horrible, but okay. But I didn't do it. But anyway, long story short, the idea of going out there and, you know, swinging a hammer, no one wanted to do that back in our age, at least mine. But then I'm seeing these guys, we had a pool installed, Doug, and they're freaking, I thought for sure, so these guys got to be hurting because of coronavirus. Hell no. So, just like you said, like you came and talked to them now to get a quote.
Yeah. So yeah. I think they're busier. It's funny.
It's insane. Yeah. It's insane. Like the guy who did ours, we just happened to get at the right time because you literally can't talk to him. He says on his voicemail, goes, I can't even talk to you right now. Leave a message. I'll get back to you when I can. I'm that busy. It's crazy.
It's nuts. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's hard for us too, being in real estate, because sometimes when like somebody's buying a house, maybe something comes up in the inspection, you got to try to rush around to get it figured out. I can't get these guys on the phone a lot, you know. Luckily, some of the guys know me, so they'll actually answer the phone.
Well, that's the issue about actually knowing the business and been around a long time. You got a good rapport with these guys. You say, look, I'll make sure you're taken care of. Just you make sure I'm taken care of, as opposed to doesn't have that record. You know.
Exactly. I mean, because just the normal average guy out there who has a house, you know, that wants something done. I mean, it's really hard to find people to do work right now. You know.
Is the well? So I'm just curious. So you got how many? You got 3 kids, all boys, girls? What's the break?
I got 2 girls are my oldest, 12 and 10 right now, and then I got my boy is the little guy. He's 6.
Okay. And like what? I got 4 kids. My oldest at Georgia Tech, but my other 3 are still in school. Like, nice. What are you thinking about? Like, hey, I mean, look, they can do whatever the hell they want. I don't care. So whatever they want to do, you know what I'm saying? But
that's kind of how I am too. Yeah.
But I just look, I say, man, don't go to debt, you know, college and take $1 million of debt when there's jobs right there available that pay you good money while you're young. You can learn. I'm thinking about my boys in particular, but you can learn something about putting a roof on that you can use later on as your body kind of ages a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Right. Then you need to maybe transition to something else. But man, I just don't know why we're not pushing this on more kids. Again, young boys in particular, because they're the ones who do this stuff. And it actually frustrates me to no end. I'm like, why would you go to school get $100,000 in debt for some degree that no one gives 2 craps about? There's no jobs when there's all these other jobs ready and begging for people to come work as long as you show up on time. You know
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I agree with you. You know, me and my wife are both, you know, we would love our kids to have, you know, the best education and all that kind of stuff. But maybe it's me because, you know, I didn't go through the whole college thing. You know, I didn't make it too long there. But you know, I'm kind of looking at it with how expensive it is now. You know, when it comes time for my kids to really look at college, I mean, if they don't at least have a good idea of what they want to do, it's almost, you know what I mean? It's almost not worth it, you know,
No.
because like you said, you just go into debt and, you know, for nothing, you know.
That's what I was going to segue is like, you know, University of Maine, if you're in state, like USM, that's what my mom, she went to night school, got a degree in accounting from USM, but this is back in the late 70s. And ain't the same now. What, like, are they pretty good for college in-state tuition and stuff in Maine? Or I have no idea. Any idea like how much it is if someone's to move to Massachusetts to Maine and, you know, settle up and get a couple years under their belt and then send their kids to UMO or USM state discounts, you know?
There's a great way to do it nowadays. Back when you were here, if the school was here, there was a school called SMTC. It was like
Southern Maine Technical Center or something like that.
Yeah. It was Southern Maine Technical College or something like that. Yeah. And so they changed their name. I'm going to say a few years ago. It was probably 15 years ago. You know how time flies. But anyway, they're called SMCC now. It's Southern Maine Community College, and they're linked up with USM. So what kids are doing now is they start at SMCC, and then they can transfer the credits over to USM. So it's like, you know, you get a cheaper, you know, you go the cheaper route, you know, to start your couple of years, and then if it works for you and you want to keep going, you switch over to USM.
So you get your first 2 years at friggin', you know, dirt cheap, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
Get the degree.
Comparatively, yeah. And then it's like, you know, if you decide like, hey, college is for me and I know what I want to do and blah blah blah, then you can transfer over to USM and continue on your, you know, your career. You know, but that's been a great way to do it here in Southern Maine.
Are you getting any investors calling you, Doug, and said, hey, I want to, I don't know, buy into condos or buy into, you know, potential Airbnb properties or anything like that? Is that a lot of investors reaching out to you? Just curious.
Yeah. You know, I get a ton of investors that reach out to me, and I work with a bunch of them too. I'll touch on Airbnb really quick.
Yeah.
I've been steering people not away from it, but you got to be really leery about it because a lot of towns are starting to you know, cut off Airbnb.
Interesting.
So yeah, you really got to be careful about that. There's still a lot of the waterfront towns here in Maine are you know, good to go, but like here in Cape Elizabeth, there's nothing solid. I don't think has come down the pipe yet, but there's a lot of talk at town hall about, you know, short-term rentals, you know, whether it's weekly, nightly, those types of things. So you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful there. You know?
That's man, I've always wondered that why these towns, look, I'm not making a value judgment, but it's just always said, you know, if you got a established residential base, the last thing you want is a bunch of short-term rentals in there to come and kind of ruin the community in some regard. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I see both sides of it, you know, like the people that just want to do it, you know, are the people that just, hey, I should be able to do whatever the heck I want. And then you got the people that are like, no, I want to shut the whole thing down. I think there's a good middle ground that we can find for everybody, you know, and, you know, to make it so, yes, you can do that. Cause there are some circumstances where it's needed, you know, like, a person maybe is just, you know, tight on cash and they need to rent out a room in their house, you know, to make ends meet. Who am I to say that you can't do that, you know? But the houses that's, you know, renting something out for, you know, a weekend and there's like huge parties that probably needs to stop.
No, I agree. There's got to be a nice middle of the road. But I've always wondered about that with Airbnbs. All right. So anyways, that's so if you're looking at Airbnb, just be careful what the pending legislation and the rabble is in terms of what they're talking. Okay, gotcha. Right on.
And that's where you can get bit, because if you look at like current laws, you know, you might say, oh, I can do it. You know, no big deal. But you really got to pay attention to the board meetings and the town council meetings and stuff like that to see what's going on. Because I think in a lot of these times you'll find that they're talking about it, and it might not be good news for you.
Yeah. Oh, I bet if they're talking about that, more likely than not, going to be there'll be some legislate or whatever it is, some kind of law passed within that town said, look, this is what we're going to do. Right. How about just buying parcels of land to put a house on or anything like that? Is that seeing anything going like that down the pipe?
Yeah, you gotta be real crafty now, because the market is performing so well.
Yeah.
So if anybody's out there thinking about selling, chances are they're going to put it out on the market and try to get the top dollar for it. You know what I mean? So if you can find things like before it hits the market, and, you know, get a decent price on it, those things are great. You know, the guys that are doing like the bigger developments, they're killing it right now, because it's like, you know, you sell it faster than you can build.
It's the only game in town.
Yeah, you sell it faster than you can build the thing, and it's great, you know. the multi-units are actually performing really well too. They're still getting, high dollars, but there's certain areas in Maine that, the numbers work very well from a cash flow perspective, and that's becoming attractive to a lot of people.
Is that, just going, I know Cape Elizabeth and whatnot, more of the fluent, but is there a pretty significant, meth problem and stuff in Maine that you're seeing, or is that kind of, I don't want to say overplayed, but is that turning a lot of people into, some of these towns that used to be nice is hurting the values and stuff for rentals and cash flow and all that? Is that a problem that you're seeing or they're aware of by chance?
Not really here in southern Maine. There might be like pockets here and there, but not too bad. I mean, I do know from watching the news and seeing police reports and stuff like that, there is a pretty good size, problem with meth and drugs and stuff like that. Yeah. I personally haven't run into it, I personally haven't sold any houses where it was,
like a
meth house or something,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Something like that. But from what I understand, it is there. I haven't really seen it hurting like whole neighborhoods. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't seen like whole neighborhoods just be like, don't go there, right. Right. That type of thing. So,
yeah. And so Maine, I mean, that's one of the benefits of Maine, man. You can go anywhere, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, basically there's anywhere you can go in Maine, you're not going to worry for your life. That's for sure.
No, exactly. I mean, coming from Buffalo, New York, and if you're down in Atlanta, there's no bad spots.
I remember my dad, when I was growing up, he said, the one thing he loved about Maine is you can literally drive and never have someone behind you at night. He goes, now when we lived in DC, he goes, it doesn't matter if it's 4 o'clock in the morning, there's always someone behind you. He goes, in Maine, the nice thing is you can actually go on the road and drive, and there might not be someone behind you. Unlike I said, man, for some reason that always stuck out to me. You can drive and not have anyone behind you necessarily.
But I know it's so true. Like as soon as sun goes down and it's like the day's kind of over. I mean, you could drive for miles and there's nobody around.
Right now, are you still in the mid-fall, or is it starting to get a little bit on the chilly side by chance?
It's getting a little at night. It gets chilly. It's we're still probably like high 60s, mid 60s during the day. Sometimes a 70-degree day. But yeah, and it's getting dark later or earlier. So yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, right on, man. Hey, Doug, it's great. We are up against the hour, so I know you got properties to sell and properties to show.
That's right.
Again, your YouTube channel is
Make Maine Your Home. That's what I go by. My website is makemaineyourhome.com. My YouTube channel is Make Maine Your Home. If you want to email me, it's Doug at Make Maine Your Home. So, and of course, if you want to make Maine your home, you don't have to do it alone.
Yes. Hey, that rhymes too.
Right.
And I'll put all those links in the show notes and all that. And folks, if you are interested in Maine, reach out to my man Doug for sure. And obviously things are moving. And I know for a fact that there are people who are interested in Maine because I watch your videos. I watch other Maine videos, and I get like I said, I have people with my own say, hey, what do you think about this? Because I'm from Maine. You know what I'm saying? I haven't lived there since I was 14, but I mean, I said, look, I know enough to be dangerous, but at the end of the day, I haven't had boots on the ground for Maine for 40 years or something like that. So just make sure you reach out to a professional. And real quick, I also think there is something to be said about talking to a guy or a lady, I don't care, but who has actually that knows how stuff works from the mechanics of a house. I mean, my goodness, just because it looks good doesn't mean the internals are good. And I think that's a big asset, Doug. And I wish more people would recognize that, man. Knowing the structure of a home and how the thing can work as a long-term commitment, because even if it's an investment or not, you still want to live there. Yeah. And if it turns out that the roof is made, crappily, and you didn't know that, but they made it shine, they spit shine, it looked real nice, but the underlaying was bad. That's not good, man. And
that's true.
I don't know, man. Hey, appreciate you being here, Doug. Hey, hold on just real second. I'm gonna stop recording. All right, hold on a sec. All right. Oop.